Joe Burrow tore his ACL in Week 11 of his rookie season, it felt like in many ways it was inevitable. Watching the Bengals play week in, week out, Burrow was constantly under siege, and seemingly regardless of down or distance, a Bengals lineman was getting instantaneously beat at the snap, or a free runner from the secondary was flying through untouched and blowing up the play, and Burrow. This is not a new problem in Cincinnati. They've graded out as a bottom 5 unit in each of the last 4 seasons, and in 2020, it was no different. While Burrow's had a promising start to his career passing the ball, he did so as one of the most pressured QBs in the league. He took 32 sacks, which was the second most in the NFL, and 42 quarterback hits, which was tied for 5th. And then Week 11 happened. Throughout 2020, the Bengals' offensive line featured 10 different linemen who played at least 200 snaps, which was one of the major reasons Burrow was repeatedly hit and statistically was one of the worst quarterbacks under pressure. But there was even a bigger reason, and that was how Zac Taylor redesigned his offensive system and philosophy. Taylor's philosophy is rooted in Sean McVay's wide zone play-action bootleg system, which usually protects the quarterback and provides him with easier reads. But after Taylor watched Burrow light the college football world on fire at LSU in 2019, he bastardized his own system by incorporating LSU's scheme a little too much. Taylor watched LSU tear through the SEC by deploying empty formations the most out of any team in the entire country. Empty formations don't have any other players in the backfield besides the quarterback, which puts even more emphasis on him quickly reading defenses both pre and post-snap, displaying exceptional short to intermediate accuracy as well as anticipation and aggression, and all those describe Burrow to a T. But empty sets also lead to the QB taking a beating. Even with a good offensive line, your guy will get hit a lot, even when the protection's sound. And Burrow got hit more than a lot. When he was an empty in those first 11 weeks, he led the league with 126 dropbacks. He was sacked 11 times, which was the most. He was the most pressured, the most hurried, and was the second most hit. What was probably most troubling about all this was how often Taylor used empty on 3rd and long. In a great article from Steven Ruiz, which I'll link below, he detailed how early in the season, Taylor kept using empty formations on 3rd and 7 or longer, which led to Burrow getting sacked 23% of the time. Against the Eagles in Week 3, they hit Burrow 9 times and sacked him 8. And here on a 3rd and 8, the Eagles completely took advantage of the empty formation. Their plan was simple: show 6 pass rushers up on the line. Empty protections only have the 5 linemen, and Burrow sees they have 6, so he audibles and motions his tight end Drew Sample to even up the matchup. But then the Eagles just rush 4 and drop back into zone coverage, and Derek Barnett sacks Burrow immediately. It was just too easy for Jim Schwartz and the Eagles to take advantage. Since O linemen typically block D linemen, and a running back would block one of these linebackers, a lineman has to set for the backer, and Sample's left one-on-one with Barnett, the defensive end. On 3rd and long, you already need your QB to hold the ball longer to let your receivers get deep enough downfield for the first down, so the O-line needs to be able to protect for an extra half second, but putting this type of stress on your QB and your already faulty line is a recipe for disaster. Despite all the pressure, Burrow was pretty effective out of empty, which is probably why Taylor couldn't resist continuing to deploy it early in the season. Especially when they were in empty, Taylor trusted Burrow to set the protections and change the concepts at the line. And as impressive as that is for a rookie, considering the fact there was no offseason, it's really unbelievable how well he played with that much responsibility. Even though the Ravens blew them out 27-3 and sacked Burrow 8 times and hit him 9, he still showed the poise and ability of a number 1 overall pick. On the very first play of the game, the Bengals trot out their favorite formation, and to get a pre-snap man or zone indicator, they motion their running back Joe Mixon out. When Burrow sees the linebacker doesn't follow him all the way, he knows it's very likely zone coverage. As he sees the safety creep back into a deep half look, he checks to the drive concept, like he's got his hands on the wheel. Drive is a shallow cross with a dig or glance behind it that's designed to vertically stretch the Mike linebacker Patrick Queen, so whichever route Queen covers, Burrow will throw to the other. He processes all of this information extremely quick and gets rid of the ball on time, and yet the O-line still gives up penetration and a hit on the QB. This is one of the issues with empty. Even when your QB does everything right, you only have 5 guys protecting. So if any of your O-linemen makes one tiny mistake, you're still going to get hit, and those definitely add up. And all those hits don't just lead to injury, but in my opinion, were one of the driving factors why Burrow went from being one of the best deep ball throwers at LSU to one of the worst in the NFL. His 18.8 completion percentage on throws of 20 or more yards beat out only Dwayne Haskins and Mitch Trubisky, and the constant, immediate pressure was a likely cause. When the Bengals again go back to their drive concept out of empty, they mix it up a bit, and here Taylor dials up a great play call. It's like drive, but with a pivot route instead of the shallow, so now both routes will be open if Queen jumps what he thinks is the shallow again. Plus, Taylor's blended in an additional concept in Mills, which uses a post route to vertically stretch the safety as well. When Queen drops into the dig window, the receiver who's running the pivot sits down, so that is open. But then, when Burrow sees the safety biting down on the dig, Mills is designed to take advantage of that, and the post should be open. The corner Jimmy Smith does a fantastic job maintaining inside leverage on the post, so it does get a little tied up, but Burrow's lack of consistency on the deep ball is something that has to be addressed heading into year 2. As this game wore on and the hits and damage on Burrow piled up, to Zac Taylor's credit, he knew he had to make a change, and so he did. Starting in week 6, he began dialing back the Bengals' empty formation usage, and Burrow stopped getting hit nearly as much. In his first 5 weeks, he was sacked 22 times with 29 quarterback hits, but in the next 5, there were just 10 sacks with 18 hits. They stopped doing the empty formations on 3rd and long nonsense, and thanks to the better protection, his deep passing improved. In week 7, on 3rd and 12, Burrow motions the running back into the backfield to help against the potential blitz. The Browns are playing cover 6 skate, which is like regular cover 3 zone, but 6 refers to a weak side safety rotation, meaning away from the strength of the formation, and skate means the backside defenders are playing man coverage. The Bengals call their Indy concept, which is 2 post routes with a deep cross from the other side. Against this type of coverage, it's critical for the QB to hold the ball and have great protection, so the routes on the zone side of the coverage can run across the field to the man side where there's nobody home. This is really a testament to how good Burrow is post-snap. Even though this defense looks like some sort of too high coverage, Burrow instantly reads the weak safety rotating down and knows to throw to this void that he's vacating. He sees that the strong safety isn't maintaining leverage on the post, and he's confident the backside corner's in man and won't fall off into a deep third, which he typically would in cover 3, to pick off the pass. It's a lot of information to process after the snap, and thanks to the back and tight end chipping, he has a clean pocket and perfectly places the ball on the receiver. Burrow's overall command of the new offensive scheme is incredibly impressive, and the more comfortable he got, the more Taylor and the coaching staff put on his plate. He's able pre-snap to move around his receivers to stretch out a specific defender, then post-snap use his eyes to move that defender and other defenders out of the way. As he motions his tight end to add protection, he anticipates the Colts are rolling to a cover 2 zone with 2 deep safeties, so he audibles to a concept where Tyler Boyd will split those safeties and run straight up the middle. Burrow wants to be absolutely sure this safety's not going to roll down and cut off the seam, so he tells AJ Green to adjust his split outside so that safety has to respect his route as well. When Green goes out, the safeties shift into their too high shell, which confirms to Burrow he's most likely going to throw the seam up the middle, and the moment Boyd clears the linebacker, Burrow hits him for an easy completion. You can see him use his eyes to check the safety and make sure he has the too high look he wants. Then, just in case this linebacker's gonna carry Boyd's route, Burrow looks to his right to influence him in that direction, then immediately comes back up the middle without hesitation. There are so many promising takeaways from his rookie season, but also a lot of concerns. I won't show Burrow's actual injury, but this was the play where he tore his ACL. And similar to the one we saw from the Eagles game, you can see the Bengals' adjustment to the 6-man front is to move their running back Gio Bernard up the middle for the linebacker, so a tight end isn't matched on Chase Young, and that's a good call. Burrow didn't get injured because of Taylor's insistence on staying in empty formations, but it was ultimately due to a lack of overall talent on the offensive line. I was shocked, and still am, that they didn't select offensive tackle Penei Sewell and instead opted for wide receiver Jamar Chase. And that's not because Chase isn't a great prospect, but because the Bengals just keep neglecting this O-line. Yes, they brought in new talent in the offseason, but this has been a year-over-year problem that hasn't gotten better. And to be honest, based on Zac Taylor's 6-25-1 record, He is not trustworthy. The Bengals introducing this style of offense, knowing they had this offensive line, and dumping all of that onto a rookie quarterback with no offseason is very troubling. And if Burrow continues to struggle throwing deep, keeping more guys in protection to help the O-line is detrimental for them since Burrow's strength is throwing underneath. The more guys you keep in to protect, the less can go and run routes, which also stretches out the defense. It seems that Taylor learned from his mistakes during last season, but that 6-25 record does not at all inspire confidence, and it's still worrisome he's the one driving this ship. Burrow is the real deal, and he will never back down from a challenge, even with the heat turned all the way up. And that's good, because with this Bengals O-line, the heat will certainly be coming. But the question of whether or not he succeeds still falls onto Zac Taylor. Can Taylor adjust his scheme to highlight Burrow's strengths and minimize the punishment? Can he preserve the young Joe so the two of them can turn the Bengals back into a winner?